Hello everyone, my name is Steve, and today we're going to discuss T.S. Eliot, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Let's first talk about the poet. T.S. Eliot was born in 1888 in a prominent Boston Brahmin family in St. Louis. He studied philosophy at Harvard University from 1906 to 1909, then moved to England in 1940. Some of his best-known poems include The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, The Wasteland, The Hollow Man, Ash Wednesday, and Four Quartets, being considered one of the significant poets and representative of modernism in the 20th century. Eliot won the 1948 Nobel Prize in Literature for his great and invaluable contribution to modern poetry. Moving to the historical and social background of the poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock was written in the early 20th century when the United States underwent a great social, political, and economic change because of rapid industrialization. Modernism movement also flourished during this period of time, and all of this brought about the prosperity of literary modernism, which uses art to make a strong cut with the past. Many artists and writers attempted to recreate traditional art forms or create entirely new ones that become a kind of antithesis to the so-called mechanical style of the era. Modernism literature uses writing techniques that differ from the traditional ways of writing, such as blended imagery and themes, absurdism, string of consciousness, and multiple perspectives, also free verse. T.S. Eliot was one of the giants in modernism, along with other notable writers such as Ernest Hemingway, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, and Ezra Pound. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock was considered to be one of the masterpieces in modernism literature. Aside from modernism, the poem was also influenced by the outbreak of World War I. It was first published in 1915, when the war caused millions of deaths and complete chaos in European society. What's more, with the conflict of socialized large-scale production and capitalist ownership of the means of production, people of that era also experienced continuous economic crisis. Unemployment and polarization between rich and poor has reached its extreme levels. After peeking into the history and society that the poem was created in, it is not difficult to understand how the poem reveals a sense of insecurity, uncertainty, and hopelessness. It reflects the human weaknesses and social reality of people's cowardice, mental emptiness, daytime idleness, and wasted time in the social context at that time. The speaker J. Alfred Prufrock suffered from social isolation, fear of intimacy, and new ways of socialization emerged from the industrial civilization. As the prototypical modern men, they were forced to be segregated by society and experience psychological disintegration. Several images of Prufrock being dissected can be found throughout the poem, such as a pair of hands that lift and drop questions on the plate, a pair of eyeballs, eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase, a severe head, brought in on the platter, and the nerves and patterns on the screen. Prufrock in the poem was both the result and victim of modern society. He was a resident of a modern big city where he felt haunted by loneliness and detachment, and he was caught in a dilemma about his disadvantages. Modernism battered the self-confidence of modern men. Ever since losing their confidence, modern men have become uncertain about their goals. On top of that, this lack of confidence made people afraid of reality. Prufrock kept postponing his purpose by telling himself that, indeed, there will be time. Yet, this much expected time never came to convert his plans into real actions. He was afraid to reveal anything, rather he attempted to hide everything. All his attempts to meet the world and the people around him were frustrated. He then expressed his dream of retreating from society to be a pair of red claws, which scuttle across the floors of silent seas. What's worse, modern men couldn't even murder themselves, which was the most fatal tragedy. The only option left in this circumstance is self-effacement, which is favored by Prufrock since he wanted to avoid a close connection with reality. However, Prufrock merely wished to be a lower animal, which he chose to dehumanize his soul and dignity. Finally reaching the poem. Eliot described it in The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, a middle-aged man named J. Alfred Prufrock who cannot take initiative to talk to a woman at a gathering due to his feeling of inferiority. His hesitation is shown through the recurring question, "Do I dare?" Also, the title of the poem itself is ironic since the poem is not about a love song that depicts a man's affection for a woman, but a monologue of the man discussing his own problem. There are 5 main themes of the poem: isolation and loneliness, romance versus realism, the quarrel with oneself, and superiority of the past and imagined life, and time. The poem begins with an Italian passage extracted from Dante's Inferno, where the speaker, Guido da Montefeltro, resembles Prufrock in a way that they both are in harsh situations like hell, yet are still concerned about their reputations. Prufrock lives in a society that is marked by paralysis, alienation, decay, and repression. Yet, he is still afraid of being laughed at by the others when proposing to the woman he likes. The theme of loneliness and isolation is highlighted by this comparison highlights, where it shows why Prufrock is unable to tell his story or show his affection. The poem introduces 2 people right after the Italian allusion. Let us go, then, you and I. It can be inferred that the 2 people, you and I, whose identities were not mentioned in the poem, are both Prufrock himself and one being his romantic self, while the others, his realist self. While the romantic Prufrock longs for a relationship, his realist self pulls him back with the idea that he will definitely be rejected. This leads to the theme of quarreling with oneself, where Prufrock is constantly debating with himself on whether he would dare to take the action. The idea of the past as well as imagined life is always better than the present and real life is also demonstrated in the poem. Various great figures in the past are mentioned, such as Michelangelo, whom the women were talking about, Hamlet, whom Prufrock emphasized that he has no similarity with, John the Baptist, and Lazarus, who has risen from the dead. All these figures made Prufrock feel inferior and insignificant, worsening his problem of reaching out to the woman. Prufrock tried to take refuge in fantasy, where he lingered in the chamber of the sea with the mermaids, yet was wakened drowned by the human voices in reality. The poem also includes the theme of time. Prufrock thinks everyone would focus on a bald spot in the middle of my hair, which indicates his age and inferiority. The time in the poem represents the advancing to one's death and the experience of wasted, used-up life, which again shows Prufrock's feeling of inferiority of being old and useless.
Hi, I'm Madeleine, and next we're going to discuss different ways to interpret the text. With the bald spot in the middle of my hair, they will say, how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. J. Alfred Prufrock is a middle-aged man who has low self-esteem. He always overthinks and eventually falls into self-doubt before taking any action. Here, although being well-dressed, Prufrock's passive thoughts still overwhelm him, leaving him in the imagination of others' taunting words. It is impossible to say just what I mean, but as if a magic lantern threw the nerves and patterns on the screen. Would it have been worthwhile if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl, and turning toward the window would say, that is not it at all. That is not what I meant at all. Presuming that his own words will not be passed on to others successfully, Prufrock hopes that there's a magic lantern that can project his inner thoughts and feelings onto the screen so that he can be understood. At the same time, Prufrock is also afraid of the possibility that if he talks to the woman, she will eventually turn to the window and tells him that he had misunderstood her the whole time. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers roll. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. Prufrock realized the time has passed by and he's aging. He has the thought of changing his outfits and hairstyle in order to look young. Imagining the fictional mermaids singing to each other, Prufrock mourns the thought that they will not sing to him. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by sea girls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us and we drown. Prufrock seems to be more attracted to his own illusions than to the woman he tries to pursue in reality. Even though being in the water, he reckons it will be better than on land. Until being dragged back to reality by human voices, he craves to stay. Although it was written over a century ago, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock remains relevant in today's culture and society. The poem is saturated with images of the modern world, images that reveal the alienation and decay of the modern society. The speaker, along with the background, are similar to today's modern life. Prufrock feels insecure about his own appearance because he's aware of the hypocrisy of the society that he lives in. He describes himself as slightly bowed, with thin arms and legs, just like people nowadays who sometimes are also worried about their appearances being evaluated by others. Also, the recurring question, do I dare, that Prufrock asks himself, resemble modern people when we're unable to decide what to do, or afraid of progressing to another step. Sometimes we also postpone by saying there will be time. These interior monologues show our fear of confronting society as we consider modern society hypocritical. At the beginning of the 20th century, our life had undergone significant and irrevocable changes with industrialization and new technologies. They improved the quality of people's lives while also creating new problems of pollution and unsafe working conditions at the same time. The speaker described the yellow fog of polluted smoke that seemed to choke the city, pervading every corner of the street. The use of the color yellow illustrates the decay of Prufrock City as well as our own modern city. In other words, his personal development moves sideways rather than forward. Similarly, when we're hesitating to take action, we tend to escape from reality, like a crab that goes back into the silent sea. And that's all for our video today. Thank you for watching and hope you have a nice day.